Okay, doing another range review. This time we're going over to Age of Sigmar. So I'm going to start by going through all the Chaos factions, I think, just to switch it up. These are the armies uh, that I own. I own two of these, so we'll start with those, and then we'll go through the rest of them. So first up is Blades of Khorne. We're going to start, just go down the line. Heroes, core units, monsters, behemoths, etc., and then any like sort of spellcasters. Um, so starting off, we'll do the Skull Taker. So he's one of the demon heroes. I am not a huge fan of a lot of the Khorne like demon heroes, except for Bloodthirsters. Um, this guy's pretty cool though. He's got a lot going on. The main thing I know is the Cape of Skulls. That's kind of like his claim to fame as a model. I don't really like that he's got these like skulls in these coiled horns. I feel like it should just be the horns, but whatever. This sword's okay. I don't know why it has a gap in it, but it does. Uh, yeah, he's pretty cool. He's kind of got the same leg plates and dangly stuff as like a Bloodthirster does, so that's kind of cool that he's like a mini Bloodthirster. So this is the Blood Master, who's a herald. Um, he's kind of old looking, I guess. Same deal. He kind of has the Bloodthirster, uh, like leg plates and stuff. Sword's a little bit older. I think it's a little bit thicker. I think this guy is plastic, but not sure. I mean, he's okay. He's basically just like a decorated bloodletter. All right, so this is Karanak. So Karanak is the three-headed uh, flesh hound. He's a cool model. I mean, he's pretty basic. He's just basically a flesh hound with three heads, and he's a little bit bigger. Um, I think the heads are a little bit awkward. Like these two look good, but this one kind of coming up out of the top. I don't know. It seems weird. Like I feel like he should have a bigger body that would fit all three heads kind of in a triangle on it, and then maybe his shoulders be up here more, because it looks like this guy's just stuck howling up, but he's okay. Here's the big boy. This is the Bloodthirster. So this is probably one of the most iconic Khorne models that they have. There's a few different versions of him with different weapons. There's one with this axe and the whip, like this guy. There's one with the axe and sort of like this mace flail thing. And then there's one with a two-handed axe. And then there's Scarbrand, who we'll get to later. But this kit's really cool. The Bloodthirsters are one of the best Khorne models, I think, on the table and looks-wise. You can do a lot of different painting options with them. Lots of cool weapons, lots of cool bits. I really like these wings with these kind of like Khorne symbols and chaos symbols in them. It's really neat. I don't really like the whip that much, even though that's kind of the classic Bloodthirster. Just because little thin things like this, I just see them breaking like immediately, and then they look stupid. So let's see if there's the other versions. Yeah, so I like this version. I like this guy with the two-handed axe. I like the rules for him, kind of jumping up in the air on this little pillar of fire. Yeah, I mean these guys are huge too. Like, a normal guy comes up to like right where his hoof starts. So he's huge. They're really cool models. Yeah, so here's the one with the flail thing. And this I think is cool, but again, it's like this is just gonna break immediately. So yeah, and all three different variations have different rules. So the Bloodthirster is like the go-to kit if you're gonna play Khorne, especially Blades of Khorne. You don't need one necessarily, but I feel like if you're going in and you're playing Khorne, like you're gonna get a Bloodthirster because that's one of the most iconic things that they have. Alright, so now we've got the Slaughter Priest. I really like this model. He's weird and crazy looking, and he's essentially a Khorne priest or like wizard. So he doesn't use magic, but he uses like blood points and stuff to summon. He can summon units in. He can cast abilities that either do damage or buff your own guys, and they can't really be dispelled because they're not spells. They're prayers. So there's two versions. This is the guy with the big two-handed axe. I have one of each version just to make them stand out and be different. His face is really cool. He's got the big scars and the scratches and stuff. He's just really neat. He's got the big kind of like Greek shin pads. And it's a little bit weird, but how his spine is sort of like bulging out and turns into these shoulder spikes or shoulder pads is cool. Yeah, he's neat. He's tall and he's very strong looking and really crazy looking. He's perfect for a Khorne army, and they're really, really good. So I would say if you're starting a Khorne army or something, this is one of the best models they have. And on the table itself, they're really, really good. Okay, this is an old guy, Aspiring Deathbringer. I believe this is a Warhammer Fantasy model that was just rebased essentially. Yeah, he's really old looking. He looks very old school, with this sort of big cartoony hands and this like very Dungeons and Dragons old looking axe and stuff. He's not that great. If you're gonna use an Aspiring Deathbringer, there are way better options than this guy. He's only $15, which is nice, but he's just no. Like, he's just old. Alright, this is one of the most interesting characters, Valkia the Bloody. So she is, I believe, a sort of like champion of Khorne who's been mutated. She's like a Valkyrie for Khorne. So she's got this cool plate armor. You see she's got sort of demon legs and stuff, and she cut the head off of a Slanesh demon, and that's what her shield is. So she's actually really cool. I have this model. She's neat. She's actually really fun to paint. She's cool to use on the table. I don't see her used very often, I think just because she's kind of, I don't know, she's just sort of awkward to put in a lot of lists, but she's really cool. And it's cool to have like a female demon sort of champion, because most of Khorne is such these like giant, overly muscular, roided out dudes, that having a more feminine shape but still being a demon and really scary is really cool. So I really like Valkia, and I'll take her if I can, but she doesn't always fit the best. Alright, the Exalted Deathbringer with the axe and shield. I've never seen this model in real life. He looks fine. He's kind of like the older one, where I'm pretty sure he's just a rebased like old Khorne champion or Khorne hero from Warhammer Fantasy. But he looks a little bit better. He's got more going on. The helmet fits kind of better. The hands, you can't even really see this hand much. He's still got a little bit of the cartooniness going on with these skulls and stuff, and the hands look very cartoony and old. But I think he's cool. He's got a nice cape. He definitely feels like an older sculpt, but it holds up. The one thing I don't like is this sort of like weird tusk thing sticking out of his shoulder pad. It just feels like it would hit his helmet and he couldn't like move. Like, I don't know how he gets this shoulder to go in front of his helmet. It's too giant. Like, I wish this was just maybe like some spikes or a cool design or something. This is a really cool model. So this is the Exalted Deathbringer with a ruinous axe, and I believe you can give him different rules. He can have the axe, and then he either has this like eye gouger thing, or gouger or something it's called, or I think he can have a shield. But this guy's cool. I mean, this guy is like half beastman, half like Khorne champion giant warrior guy. This face is so good. Like, he's really mean. He looks demonic, but he still has like a mortal body and kind of that thing, and he doesn't look like a bloodthirster or like a bloodletter. He kind of looks like a beastman instead, which I think is really neat. This gouger thing is cool, the fist thing. I really like this belt too with the demon face on it and all that. And he's just like jacked. Like he's ridiculously muscled. And that's kind of a fun thing with Khorne, is that you just get these like ridiculous huge dudes with huge axes and weapons and stuff. And his pose is really open, which allows you to paint him pretty easily, and you can do a lot of cool stuff. You know, you can paint this like flesh, you could paint this red, you could paint it like metal, you can paint his skin a variety of tones. You know, he's got some demon qualities to him, so he's a really cool model. I don't have one of these, but I've seen them, and it's a model that I really want to get eventually. I just don't really have need for it in my list right now. All right, here's another aspiring Deathbringer. So he has the Gorax and Skullhammer. So this would just be, this is the better version of that really old guy I showed you with the cartoony axe and the kind of old style. This is kind of like the new version of him, and I think just looks way better. He's got just as much detail, you know, and more. He's got a better pose. The one thing I will say about this guy is despite having all this stuff, he doesn't look a ton different from like a Blood Warrior or a Blood Reaper or something. He looks pretty standard, so it can be a little bit hard to see where he's at, but I like this big hammer. He's got this chain thing, like whatever. This will probably break off. But yeah, he's nice. He's got some good armor. The chainmail showing through is neat. Alrighty, so Scar Bloodwrath is a weird model. I don't really like him that much, even though I love Wrathmongers, and he's like the king Wrathmonger guy. There's just like too much stuff going on in this. I don't really like his face. It looks kind of weird. Like I don't really know. The helmet, I guess, it's like a helmet, but it also kind of looks like a face mask. He's got these big horns, which is neat, and the top knot. Like I feel like there's just way too much going on everywhere. I don't like these flail things attached to the axes. It ties him in with Wrathmongers, who have their big flail axe hammer things. But I feel like he either should just have the flails or he should have the axes. These being tacked on, just, I don't know, they're weird to me. I don't really like it. And I don't really like that he's got like goat hoof legs. I get that they're trying to make him demonic and crazy looking, but I don't know. I don't really like this model very much. He's kind of whatever. He's really cool in the game, but I don't particularly care for this model. All right, here's the Skull Grinder. So I love my Skull Grinder in the game. I think he's really cool as well. He fits in with the rest of the Khorne characters, where he's got, you know, the same kind of helmet and all this stuff. He's a Khorne blacksmith, essentially. That's also like a crazy champion hero guy. So he's not hitting you with his hammer. He's hitting you with his anvil tied to a chain, which is so ridiculous. See, there's his hammer there, and this is his anvil. So he's ridiculous, and I love that. It's got a lot of dynamic motion where you can definitely tell, like, whoosh, he's going to swing this hammer or anvil thing at you. Yeah, he's got a lot of movement with that curve there, and then these curving. Like, it definitely feels like he's twisting and turning his body. And this is where the Age of Sigmar models, I think, are just, like, so good. All of the new stuff is so good. So I love my Skull Grinder. His face is really cool and scary. And on the table, he's pretty good. Like, he's only 80 points, and you can buff him up to just hit like an absolute truck. He's really, really fun to use. He's this tiny little scary ball of murder. So here's the Exalted Deathbringer with a spear. So instead of having the axe and the gouger thing, you can take him with a spear. And they do different things. The model's different. I really like this model. I love the spear. It's an interesting change from a lot of Khorne stuff, because most Khorne stuff either has a sword or an axe. So to see them with like a spear, a big spear glaive type thing, is really neat. Just as an aesthetic change, he feels very different from a lot of the other heroes. Um, I actually like him better with the other head option, which I'll show in a second. He's got this really cool tattoo or scar, sort of chaos symbol on his back, lots of little trinkets and stuff, and some good movement, with stuff flowing and all that. So you can have a lot of fun painting this. I really enjoyed it, but I like this head better. He just looks way more crazy, and I feel like it fills the space better. Whereas the helmet, it makes his head look really tiny. And I painted mine to have like a big white beard and stuff, so I've named mine Murder Santa. Yeah, he's really cool. He's one of my favorite models. And in previous editions, he was really, really, really fun to play with. He had some crazy rules. He's still pretty good, though. All right, so here's the other Slaughter Priest with the hack blade and the Wrath Hammer. I like the other one a little bit more than this guy, but this guy looks much more demony, where he's got these sort of like spiky bits coming, like bone coming out of him, and this different colored hand. And his hammer, or not his hammer, his sword looks really crude, like it's just kind of been smashed out as a piece of armor or something. And he's got this big flail thing. I use one of each just because I like to have different looking guys, but this guy doesn't seem as priestly as the other guy. He looks kind of more like any just Khorne champion, but he's actually a priest. Whereas I think the other guy, having the bald head and an overall different look, he looks like a crazy like blood priest cannibal guy. But this model's still pretty cool, and it's fun to paint. You can do a lot of stuff with the changing skin tones and the spikes coming out and all that stuff. All right, another demon hero, the Skullmaster, on a Juggernaut. You'll notice a lot of my feelings. I don't really like bloodletters very much. They're just sort of weird looking, and I wish they were, I don't know. They just look kind of old school, which is cool, I guess, but I don't really like bloodletters or bloodletter heroes very much. I like Juggernauts. Juggernauts are really cool, and they're really fun to build and paint, but I don't know. I just don't really like the demon side of Khorne stuff very much, except for Bloodthirsters, which I think are probably the best model. The Blood Throne. This model is bad. I really don't like this model. It's the same. You can also make the Skull Cannon out of this. It's just stupid. Like, I just don't like it at all. It looks like a motorcycle or something, but it's alive. I don't know. I just hate it. Like, these guys just riding on the front don't really make sense to me. I don't really know what this is. It's like a motorcycle thing, and it's got this weird, dumb front wheel that's like a barrel, and it's got this like fleshy back full of skulls. And like in the Skull Cannon, this makes sense when we get to it because it shoots skulls out of it. But it's just stupid. Like, I just don't like it at all. Like, I'd rather this just be like a Juggernaut with this guy on it, with like a throne on it. That would just be way cooler. But this is honestly one of my least favorite models in all of Khorne, if not my least favorite. Alright, this is the Lord of Khorne on Juggernaut. So this model's pretty cool. He looks a little bit boring because he's static, like you have to put him in this pose. His axe isn't particularly big, but it's really cool. I mean, not everything in Khorne has to be ridiculously huge. He actually seems pretty reasonable in his size and everything, which I think is good. I really like his helmet. This helmet with the big things with the tassels are really cool. His armor is just really neat and looks very old school Warriors of Chaos. And then, of course, he's on a Juggernaut, and Juggernauts are really cool. This is a model I really like. I have one in my collection, and he's usually my go-to hero. You can give him a bunch of cool equipment and abilities and stuff, and he destroys people. He's really cool. I really like this model. All right, and the big man himself, Scarbrand. So Scarbrand is a named bloodthirster. You'll notice his wings are all destroyed, and that is part of his lore, is that he challenged Khorne to a fight and Khorne just sort of laughed at him and like threw him through a planet or something like that and just shredded him. So you'll see like half his face is ripped off. He's got these torn up wings. And so he's the only bloodthirster that can't fly. But he makes up for it by being super angry and has these two really cool axes, which are demon axes, that each get their own rules in the game and do different things. I really, really like Scarbrand. This is one of my favorite models I've ever painted and is probably the best model I've ever painted. I took a lot of time with him. You can have a lot of fun doing, the skin, the hair, the horns, making these demon axes. I've seen them done like demon flesh. I've seen them done in silver or, metallics, like they've been carved that way. His wings you can do a lot of things with. He's really cool, and he's this chunky little angry bloodthirster. Like, he's not big and tall and lean like the other ones. He's like this squat little angry one. And yeah, so here's his face that's been torn open. And his horns are kind of all beat up, and he's got this beard. I really like this beard going on, and his armor's really cool. So Scarbrand is one of my favorite models, and he's just really, really cool. And yeah, so here's his axes where they're both different. They've got teeth and like flesh and weird stuff going on. The one thing is, $140. Like, he's so expensive. But he's really good, and this is an amazing model. So if you're more experienced and you think you can handle it, like, this is a really cool centerpiece model that you can put down on a table and everyone goes like, whoa, that's really cool. So Khorne has a lot of heroes. So they're a more hero-heavy faction, but now we'll get into the units. So I'm going to skip some of the little side sets and things that are meant for the specialist games. So I'm actually going to jump around based on what they do. So I'm going to start with Bloodletters. I don't really like Bloodletters very much. They're okay, I guess. They're not too hard to paint at all because they're just, they're basically just all one color. The contrast paint is really great with these guys. I really like the red contrast, and you can dry brush them and get 10, 20 of these guys done pretty quickly, like a few hours. They're pretty basic. Their poses are a little weird sometimes, like this guy that's got this kind of, I don't know, angle. I really like these guys though, who've got the sword up like a big, like, great sword. They're iconic. I would, if you're gonna play Khorne, like, probably get 20 of these just to have, because you can summon them, and use them in smaller games. They're okay. Rules wise, they're just not very good, so you don't really see them taken unless they're like a free summon unit. Yeah, I mean, they're okay. Their swords stick out so far. They get stuck on each other a lot too, which is kind of a annoyance. And continuing with demons, we'll do Flesh Hounds. So I actually like Flesh Hounds more than I like Bloodletters. They're cool. I think they're cool. They look good with Karanak, and they're a really unique kind of looking demon compared to a lot of the other ones. And they're not crazy difficult to paint either. Same kind of thing. You can just do them all red with the contrast. And they look nice. And they've got 3 different poses. Or 5 different poses. The sergeant, in quotes, I guess, is this guy with the big spikes, and then he's got the big hair mohawk thing. This guy running, this guy jumping, this guy's just sort of snarling, and this guy growling. And so they're easy to distinguish from each other. Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're cool little guys. Again, if you're gonna play Khorne, I'd probably get a pack of these. I mean, $50 gives you 5. It's a little bit expensive, but they're cool because you can summon them, and they're cheap. They're cheap like core unit filler. And definitely, if you get Karanak, pick up a pack of these guys, because Karanak comes with a pack. He can summon 5 of them for free. So now moving on to the mortal troop kind of core unit is Blood Reavers. The Blood Reaver models are pretty cool. There's some that like are really awesome and some that look really dumb. They can get a variety of weapons. I think they can get the Meat Ripper axes, or they can get double, like two separate axes that have different rules. They're basically Khorne marauders from the regular, overall Chaos faction. They just have a little bit more flair to them, some different Khorne iconography and helmets and more ornate looking weapons and stuff. They're okay. They're a lot of effort and a lot of work to build and paint for a model or a unit that's just like that just dies like right away. Like they're really, really weak in terms of that. They can hit pretty hard. They just have tons of attacks. So I don't really like these that much. It's just not the side of Khorne that I like to play, but I know a lot of people really like these. I hate this head. I don't understand this head. This like spike beard. It just looks so stupid. Yeah, there's some that are kind of whatever. For these guys, you could paint them fairly quickly, but honestly, you're gonna need a lot of these. Like this guy looks okay. That run is a little weird. The axe is neat and the helmet's cool. Yeah, like they're okay. I don't really like them that much. I don't really use them. I have some, but meh. Okay, and so you get 20 of them for $58. So that's not bad. That's like $3 a guy. So for that, like that's a pretty good deal. Because you're definitely going to be wanting to take big units of these guys. And you can intersperse these with like you can get a Marauder set from Chaos, regular Chaos Warriors, and mix and match them, and they're basically the same thing. So Blood Warriors, on the other hand, I really like these guys. So this is kind of more what I like about Khorne and what draws me to Chaos in general. A lot of times is like, or at least the mortal side, is the big armor and the big weapons and these crazy, faces and weird stuff. Like these guys just look really scary. So I really like Blood Warriors. You get half as many models for essentially the same price as Blood Reavers. So you get $62, you get 10. So they're like, $6 each. But they're way, 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 way cooler to me. Like every guy in this pack looks pretty cool. They have different weapons. Like this guy looks so awesome with the big blood glaive. This helmet's really cool. And you can mix and match a lot of the helmets and arms and parts and stuff. So that's super fun with this kit. Yeah, Blood Warriors are nice. And you can buy, a pack of these guys and like a pack of Wrathmongers or something we get later. Mix match their weapons, change the heads around, all sorts of stuff, and they fit pretty well with each other. You might need to do some conversions to make them fit, but they're pretty cool. And these are Wrathmongers. So these are no longer core unit choices. These are sort of like special units, but Wrathmongers are really neat. I really like these models. They're just like ludicrously buff, super angry, very Khorne, like half demon, half mortal guys. I really, really love the dynamics of like these flowing hammers and stuff. The one thing is that because they're on these, they're plastic and these are thick, but like these break. And once they break, it's pretty much impossible to put them back on. And they're kind of, turny and weird, so it's hard to pin them too. So like for mine, I gave them one regular weapon and then one flail to just minimize the chance of breakage. They've got a lot of cool little bits and mutations and stuff. So like this guy's got this sort of like spiky claw coming out of his arm. This guy's got 3 arms, which I love. I think that's really cool, where he's got 1 arm, 2 arm, and then he's got a 3rd arm growing out of the side here, so he can have 3 flails. That's a cool little change. The captain guy is neat. He's easy to tell because he's all big and tall. This is the one guy I don't really like the goat feet thing. It's better than hooves. Like, it looks like demon feet, but I don't know. Sometimes the half mutations just, they look a little bit weird. Like, he looks so buff and giant and then has these kind of like spindly little legs. But yeah, I really like Wrathmongers. And I believe Wrathmongers and Skull Reapers come from the same kit. So you build one. Yeah, so like here's the flails, and then here's some of the Skull Reaper weapons. So you can kind of mix and match parts from either kit to make pretty unique looking guys. So then this is Skull Reapers. So this is the other side of the kit. I do not like Skull Reapers as much as Wrathmongers. I think mainly because the weapons are a little bit too much. Like, these guys look too kind of like crunchy and spiky and weird. There's just something I don't really like about them as much. They've got more mutations and all that, but I just like Wrathmongers more, I guess is what it comes down to. So I always built mine like Wrathmongers, and my list uses Wrathmongers a lot, so it works out that way. They've got some really cool weapon bits to sort of give to other kits, though. So even if you build them as Wrathmongers, save the Skull Reaper parts, because you can convert other models with them and make some really cool looking models. So yeah, like they're okay. They're not bad. They've got some good motion and some interesting stuff going on, but like, this axe is neat. They've all got demon weapons, so if you want that kind of look, this is a good kit for that. Like, I don't like the scorpion tail. I don't know. It just feels dumb. Or like this head where he's got like a pig head because he's mutated or mutating into like a mini bloodthirster face kind of thing. But it just looks sort of silly to me. I don't know. I don't really like that as much as like a cool helmet. Okay, then this is Mighty Skull Crushers. This is one of my favorite units in the Khorne book. They're a little bit old feeling, because I believe they're the same as when they were in Fantasy. But they're essentially Blood Warriors riding Juggernauts. So, 2 kits I like, and they're put together, so that's great. You can give them 2 different options. You can give them a spear, or you can give them, I believe, swords or axes. And they always have a shield. So I really like the looks of these guys. The Juggernauts are cool. They're in different poses. Because you're usually you're using like 6 of these, usually maximum. Maybe 12 if you're like really crazy into them. They all can kind of look different, especially if you mix them with like a Wrathmonger kit or a Skull Reaper kit or something. Give them some different weapons if you go that route. Give them different heads, little things like that. They're really cool, and they're really good. And they're chunky, they don't break. They're pretty easy to build, pretty easy to paint, big flat panels and stuff. So yeah, I really like Skull Crushers. They feel very Khorne as well. I don't think other Chaos factions get Juggernauts. So this is kind of like their heavy cav, which makes them feel very different from like Chaos Knights or something. So then these are Blood Crushers. These are essentially the demon version of Mighty Skull Crushers. Just get Mighty Skull Crushers. Like, Blood Crushers are exactly the same price, and they have blood letters on top of them instead, which is just way worse. I just don't like blood letters that much. The Juggernauts are really cool, but I'd rather they have Skull Crusher Chaos Warrior guys on top. It's maybe not a bad idea to pick up a kit if you want to play a Khorne army, because you can summon these, whereas you can't summon the Mighty Skull Crushers. But honestly, like, I'm looking to get the ones that I have in a kit and convert these guys to look armored like Chaos Warriors, or just get Chaos Warriors and put them on top and use them as Skull Crushers, because Blood Crushers like are basically just worse. again, like the Juggernaut looks really cool, but the Bloodletter is just, he feels so spindly and kind of like pointless. All right, and then lastly, here's the Skull Cannon. So this is the other version of the like Skull Throne that you can make. This makes a little bit more sense to me, but I still think it sucks. I still just hate this. It looks like a motorcycle. It's got this dumb fleshy like belly that holds skulls, but you can see the skulls. It's just sort of dumb. And I hate that you can see through this. Like, if this is supposed to be a mouth, and this is a mouth that, like, eats stuff, it doesn't, like, go anywhere. I don't know. It's just dumb. This model is gross, and not in, like, a, oh, cool, chaos, gross way. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I just don't like this model, as we've said. So, yeah, whatever. Bleh. So that's Khorne in a nutshell. There's a couple other things like the judgments. So these are their endless spells that you can get. These are pretty metal. Like, you got skulls that cry blood and fly around. This giant flaming axe that gets thrown out of the sky and blows stuff up, and then this sort of icon that floats around and drips blood off of it. These are very cool. Even if you just use them as like terrain pieces or something, for $35, these are really cool, and they're very good. So if you get a slaughter priest, or not slaughter priest, blood priest or whatever, definitely pick these up because they're really neat looking, even if you just have them as like a display, and they're so Khorne, like they're just like a heavy metal album cover. And they go hand in hand with the skull altar. So this also helps your priests. It helps them summon. It helps them cast their prayers more effectively, and it looks nice. It's a piece of terrain. You could put an objective on it or whatever, and stay on it. So it's pretty good for $35. Again, you get a terrain piece and you get rules for it, and you can take it in every game for free. So this is a great little terrain piece. Makes your army, have a unique piece of terrain on the table for it, and it's a cool little display stand too. You can paint a guy, put it on here, and leave it on your shelf or whatever, and it looks pretty cool. So I really like the skull altar as well. But that's pretty much Khorne in a nutshell. There's a couple little like side kits like these, but those are for like Underworld or whatever it's called. Khorne is a very hero-heavy army. It has a lot of characters, and that's kind of part of the lore, is that like, oh, you rise through the ranks by killing weaker enemies, and then you eventually can ascend into demonhood, kind of. So they've got a lot of like one-off characters to buy, which is really fun because you can paint them all differently. I've got almost every character, at least one of. Yeah, and Scarbrand and Bloodthirsters are really, really cool centerpiece models that really tie everything together. So if you like big, chunky armor and big, muscly guys with axes and stuff, this is the army. Khorne is all about just getting swole, killing dudes, taking heads. And they're pretty straightforward, and they're fun to play. And I think they've got a really good, solid range for Age of Sigmar that still holds up, even though they were the first army that came out in Age of Sigmar alongside the Sigmarites, and haven't really gotten an update since then. They're still solid.